Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome to this channel on narcissism and taking on an Am I the Asshole, which has become the new teaching tool for people to sort of understand not only what narcissistic patterns look like, but what often happens to survivors who second guess themselves. This one's a little graphic, so I'm going to try to leave some of the more graphic parts a little bit out of it, but I don't know if I'll even get all of them out. So if you're uncomfortable with sort of bodily functions and sexual body parts, you may not want to watch this one. Okay. So am I the asshole? Okay. My boyfriend, it's 27-year-old male, started asking me to join him in my girls' night in. Okay, which to me is 10 red flags popping up at once. Every time I tried to say no, he would be like, I have to join or you'll have to cancel. So, like all of you are thinking, all of my coercive control alarms are just jumping out of my head, and the isolation and all. That's a very bad thing. It made me and the girls miserable having to sit there with him in the middle. Yeah. This past Friday, he insisted to join us again. I had enough. I came up with an idea to get him to hate hanging out with us. Made a plan and told the girls what we were going to do, and they were down for this. The girls came, and my boyfriend immediately sat with us and started ruining our conversations by steering towards him, his work, his achievements. So the classical egocentricity we'd expect in a controlling person. So here's what I did. I started bringing up gross, embarrassing subjects, and the girls were eating them up by talking about them in detail. Subjects, and like I said, this is the dirty part. Sex, periods, which is his most sensitive spot, cramp diarrhea. I know, sing it, sister, I get that. Hairy legs, farts getting trapped in sort of a person's anatomy and coming out in certain ways. Just trying to make it a little less graphic. Squeezing pimples out of our faces. Cramp diarrhea again. Dirty underwear. And again, more cramp diarrhea. Okay, so, I mean, I could certainly participate in that conversation, but I can imagine homie, the controlling boyfriend, not so much. We talked about this stuff in boring detail, like I could feel his discomfort without even looking at him. This was well played by her. But God, when I turned to see why he got quiet suddenly, he was getting red in the face and had sweat all over his forehead. I bet he found himself unable to relate to this subject and thus couldn't take part in the conversation. It's also possible he was deeply embarrassed, so like getting red and sweaty could be either anger, it could be embarrassment, but clearly he was, this was not going the way he wanted it to. He got up from the couch ready to head out. I looked at him and asked where he was going, and he said, I remember that I have an important meeting with a guy in about 10 minutes and I have to go now. He rushed out telling us to have fun. The girls and I started laughing hysterically. He came home and berated me, saying I made him feel uncomfortable and sick with the horrible subjects I kept bringing up. I said, what are you talking about? This is the typical stuff girls talk about all the time. But he insisted I made him upset and caused him to leave. He declined to speak to me and is quiet since then, so silent treatment. So here it was. If it wasn't about him, and it wasn't about subjects he felt comfortable with, he couldn't be there. But when she communicated clearly with him, I don't want you to be there when it's a girls' night, he didn't listen to that. I recently did a video on this channel about sort of that going into the narcissistic communication cave, throwing the narcissistic communication Hail Mary pass, right? That idea of one time, make your communication clear. She did. I'd like my girlfriends to come over for girls' night. I want to be there. I want to come. I want to stick myself in the middle of. So she asked, and he wouldn't give her the thing she asked, which seems like a pretty simple thing to ask. I just want to have some friends over. So it's always the test of when you do it clean and they don't do it, you've got one or two options. Recognize this person isn't listening to you and get out of the relationship. Because if you stay, it's going to become all of this kind of contorted sort of workaround, sometimes even passive-aggressive ways that the way he approached, like, you made me upset, and now he's not talking to her, right? Remember, the silent treatment is passive-aggressive, right? She wonders, am I the asshole? I'm saying no. In fact, this isn't just about being an asshole. You might actually be in a potentially risky situation with this much control and the need to have him be there, right? So he's policing it. And then on top of that, it almost implies that he would rather she maybe didn't even do it, right? So she can't have that one-on-one friend with a time for a time to just sort of catch up. That isolation is always a concerning dynamic about controlling narcissistic relationships. here, folks. So she has an update. Here we go. Y'all, all of you, wow. I just got home and looking at all these hundreds of comments. Thank you so much for your feedback and advice. Just to add context, this is his apartment. He tells me who is and isn't allowed to come, and I thought this was fine since it's his place. No, if you're co-residing with someone, regardless of who's paying the rent, it is not appropriate to say, if you live here, these are my rules. That seems to me to sort of like on the fringes of living in a sort of a prison or in some sort of military state. That you're living with someone, there's an assumption that it's not like she's asking to do something offensive. She's like asking to have friends over, and he apparently got veto power on everyone. That again, coercively controlling, isolating, really problematic. She said, I help with the bills, but he makes so much more as the head in his job, and so that's that. It's actually not that's that, but that is a very common justification in narcissistic relationships. Well, they're paying more, so I guess they can do this and this, and that's that transactional piece we see in narcissistic relationship. Well, if they're paying more, then maybe they get to do more of this and this. No, they're paying more. That's separate from sort of the rights and the equitability of a relationship, okay? I just can't believe how dense and blind I've been to his negative ways. He's still giving me the silent treatment, and I've decided that it's just a lot to take. And so I'm temporarily moving in with one of the girls and will now definitely be reconsidering a few things. So is trying to extricate. I don't know what there is to reconsider here. I mean, somebody who was that controlling was saying who could and couldn't come, that your friends were there, he had to be there, and then he was going to use that as an opportunity to hold court. I don't know what else you need to reconsider. Just wanted to keep all of you updated since many of you got engaged in this post. Thank you for DMing me concerns. Appreciate your time and concerns. And all my hugs go out to all of you. So, and it's not surprisingly, if you look at the thousands, literally thousands of comment on this, a lot of people are saying something very wise. In fact, the commenters on this one are actually really, really smart. One who has all red flags is that there's actually, this is not a funny story. A lot of these Am I the Assholes are kind of funny and about funny family things or friend things. This one isn't funny. There's potentially some risks in this one. Don't know how this one ended up or landed for her, but if you're in a situation where somebody's making what feel like arbitrary rules, this person can come, this person can't come, and it is such a classic element of narcissistic relationships of your people can't come to the house, your friends, family, and if they do come, I'm going to still suck all the oxygen out of the room. And what invariably happens, and this is a classic dynamic in toxic relationships, the toxic person says you can't have over who you want, and if they finally relent and says yes, you can, they usually make the experience so unpleasant for the people coming to visit, whether it's friends or family, that they take the attitude of I don't even want to be here. Like your friends and family are like, this is unpleasant. If we're going to see you, maybe you need to come to our place, right? So it was just heartbreaking because you think, well, I want people to be able to come where I live, but the toxic person effectively makes that not possible. It's that little by little clipping away of the kind of support that a person needs in their life. And when that happens, you can get really isolated. This person actually used this forum as a way to get some guidance. But as the many, many, many commenters on this said, red flags all around, please be careful if you're in any kind of relationship where a person is sort of trying to control those comings and goings in a household, is using your friendships as a place to hold court, is telling you that you can only have these friendships. And then when you actually communicate and it's not honored, and then you maybe even in a playful way, try to set a boundary, and that results in rage. Once again, narcissistic folks don't like being outplayed. She outplayed him in that one by embarrassing him. He could have easily said, okay, ladies, this conversation's not for me. Have a good time. But once again, that toxic dynamic of always wanting to rain on a person's parade is a very, very big thing. If I'm having fun, folks can have fun, but if this isn't fun for me, then I'm going to sink the ship. I don't know if this dude's narcissistic or, yeah, dude's narcissistic. I have no idea who these people are. But a lot of these patterns, the isolation, the coercive control, the entitlement, the passive aggressiveness, those are patterns that no matter what, it doesn't even matter if we're talking about narcissism, they're simply not healthy for a relationship. Thanks again.